I'm in the game still rapping at a high capacity. If Nas wants to smoke, come in the booth. I will rap
He don't want
circles
no
around.
smoke. He enjoying that 150 million, 200 million he done
Okay
made.
then, so then leave me alone while I'm on the field.
You was effing with him. He wasn't bothering you.
Jim Jones was never better than Nas. Jim Jones will never be better than Nas. And this is coming from somebody that's not a Nas fan. I love Dipset. I love the Diplomats. I love Bird Gang. But we not about to start rewriting history because Jim Jones got confidence.
Jim Jones hit Shannon Sharpe's podcast with a wild claim. He said he's not just relevant, he's more influential than Nas, more important to the culture. That one line flipped everything upside down. And just like that, 50 Cent entered the chat. No post, no name drops, no direct shots. Instead, he dropped a federal transcript on Instagram and let the streets piece it together. Fans immediately started digging through wiretaps, old interviews, and suspicious clips. Next thing you know, Jim's on IG in the gym, barking through disses like he's getting ready for lockdown at Rikers. But this ain't just about Nas. And it ain't just about ego either. This feels like 50 flexing his real power, reminding the game
really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them, some of them.
who's actually protected and who somehow slid past those indictments when others didn't. Jim might have thought he was just talking slick to prove a point. But what he triggered, it might be way deeper than music. And let's be real, anytime Jim Jones brings up Nas, it hits different. There's history there, real tension. This didn't come out of nowhere. This wasn't some regular generational sneak diss. This goes way back, all the way to 2002 when Nas went off live on Hot 97, randomly trashing Cameron and calling his album whack, with no real reason at all.
I never got to, did I ever got to see Nas? I never got to sit down and have a conversation with Nas and things like that. I had called you about it and things like that. That was like, still one of the people that I never got to have a conversation throughout my history of rap and things like that. I think I would love to have a conversation with Nas. I wouldn't know if he knows it, but Nas was one of my all-time favorite rappers coming up and things like that.
I've heard you say that.
Since the barbecue and things like that. Like he really put the whole dope boy rap, crack hustler, get fresh rap into perspective before anybody.
That one rant from Nas back in the day, it lit a fuse. Dipset didn't just respond, they mobilized. Jim Jones dove headfirst into the beef, swinging with zero hesitation. And from there, things got messy fast. Nas and Dipset started trading shots across mixtapes. And Jim, he took it personal, real personal. He was out here talking about smacking the kufi off Nas and kept that same heat in his tracks like, "We fly high." This was way more than music, but here's where it gets even messier. Jim used to love Nas. Just a year ago, he wasn't saying a single bad word about the man. There was real admiration there until it suddenly flipped into shade. What changed? It all started when Jim popped up on Fat Joe and Jadakiss's podcast.
Recently saw a clip on Instagram where a young kid was comparing you to Nas and saying that you got
that's my young boy.
Big hits.
He's wild.
Yo, he looked to you. He learned how to wear the BB Simon belt from you. He got his swag. Like, how crazy is that? Because in my era, you know what I'm saying? Nas is like a god.
In my era.
Fat Joe, he knew exactly what he was doing. He stirred the pot, and Jim took the bait. And instead of just letting that clip fade away on the timeline like most people do, Jim went all in. He couldn't help himself. He had to double down. Out of nowhere, Jim dropped one of the wildest takes hip-hop's heard in years, saying he wasn't just relevant, he was more influential than Nas. We're talking Nas, Queensbridge royalty, the mind behind Illmatic, God's son, King's Disease, a legend who still packs out Madison Square Garden in his 50s. But Jim, he didn't blink. He didn't backtrack. He stood on that take with his chest out. That interview didn't just stir drama, it flipped the whole table and lit the room on fire before the smoke even cleared.
Nas. But remember, Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade.
Yes.
So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan, period. I'd never take that away from him. But then as I got in the game, you got to realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style in my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation.
Fresh off that wild podcast moment, Jim Jones wasn't done. He pulled up on a whole other platform. This time, it was Shannon Sharpe's Nightcap with Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson. Jim slid in ready to stand on everything he said, but ended up throwing even more gas on the fire. Shannon wasn't about to let him coast either. He came straight at Jim, opening the convo with some pressure. But what Jim said next, it made fans actually pause the video. Like, did he really just say that? Just when it seemed like Jim was finished comparing legacies, he hit the gas again with another bold take.
Came into light and started going crazy that these kids love me. They don't really know who Nas is. If he's 22, he's born in 03.
Not all of them. Some of them know. But
you know what I mean?
A lot
Like,
of them know.
He started dragging up old beef from the early 2000s when Dipset and Nas were tossing shots across mixtapes. Then he flipped it, claiming he was a bigger Nas fan than anybody, but that he'd surpassed Nas in real cultural impact. He tried to soften it by giving Nas props for his fashion, calling him one of the flyest to ever do it. But Jim kept circling back to the same point. Nas don't influence the streets like I do. That was the line he refused to let go. Then it got petty. Jim started roasting Shannon's outfit mid-convo, salty energy all over the set. Ocho Cinco? He just sat back like a fan watching two titans trade jabs.
No, me, Jim Jones. No diplomats, no nobody else. Me, Jim Jones. Check my track record, then check everybody else's track record. Then go to the billboards and check all my entries, then check all them entries and and I'm not taking nothing away from nobody. But I hear the comparisons and then be trying to act funny when it comes. No, I've been spanking a lot of this shit about the industry. I've been putting on.
But then Jim went a step too far. He straight up accused Shannon of only bringing him on for views. That's when UNC snapped. The vibe turned real quick, and you could feel the tension through the screen. That's when Shannon Sharpe flipped the whole vibe. 1 second, he's the podcast host. Next second, he's ready to square up. If Jim wanted smoke, Shannon had time. He didn't just clap back with words. He challenged Jim to hit the gym and settle it with muscle instead of music. See, when Jim doubled down and told Shannon he was better than Nas, Shannon didn't argue about lyrics. He came for Jim's body, straight NFL energy.
Can I ask you a question, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
You smoke, right?
Yeah.
Were you smoking when you said you better than Nas?
I might have been a little.
That's when things got weird. Instead of firing back at 50 or defending his Nas comments with real bars, Jim tried to spin the convo into a gym showdown. He wanted a workout war, like he was gonna prove relevance through dumbbells. But while Jim was caught up flexing for the camera, 50 had already made his move, quietly. That individual one label was still looming in the shadows, and 50 ain't the type to bark online. He lets the paperwork talk. Meanwhile, the internet was on fire. The comments section, pure chaos. People couldn't believe a retired NFL Hall of Famer was out here defending Nas harder than rappers in the game.
I want you to Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type of shit. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that bullshit.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit.
One fan even said, Shannon did what Fat Joe and Jada should have done. Jones, you delusional. Shaw, thank you for bringing it up. And that's real talk. Because why were they so quiet during that original podcast? And while all this mess played out in public, 50 was lurking in the shadows, watching the whole circus unfold, dead silent. But just when folks thought the drama had peaked, it got petty, because that's when fans brought out the clip that flipped it all again. Now that's the ultimate disrespect. Back then, Nas didn't just ignore Jim, he laughed him off the stage. And here in 2025,
Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people. Like, he
Ain't
never
no
had
shame
that.
in that. There a lot of folks came up second to Tom Brady.
He never had that type of influence on us, except for his first album. I already told you, I used to want to dress like Nas because he had a lot of fresh clothes that the hustlers used to wear.
and we used to see him on TV. He had one of the illest albums of all time. And then in high school when he had the barbecue and shit like that. So I'm a real fan of Nas, but he kind of lost me after the movie Belly and shit like that.
That same disrespect is circulating like clockwork, but it didn't stop there. Because while Nas kept it silent and Shannon kept hitting reps, someone else was lurking in the cut, watching everything unfold with laser focus. Soon as 50 Cent heard Jim claim he was better than Nas, he didn't argue. He didn't rant. He just grinned. Then, he cracked open his legendary archive of petty receipts and reignited one of the spiciest rumors in hip-hop history. All it took was one post.
Bro, you been at this thing, but lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
Y'all
but look how you dress. Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. And the things that we listen to,
I can be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, I know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
50 called Jim Individual One on Instagram, and that one caption had the internet in tears. But the joke ain't just funny, it's loaded. Because real ones know that's not just some slick nickname. In that infamous court case, prosecutors played a call where someone was allegedly giving the green light to violate Tekashi for flipping on the set. The voice on the call? Never confirmed in court. But they referred to the speaker as Individual One. And the streets immediately started pointing fingers at Jim Jones.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Nobody from Dipset gonna take you over Nas. Nobody from the Diplomats but you.
Hey, I got hold on, Jim. Hold on.
That shirt too tight.
Hold on.
That shirt too
Jim.
tight. You want to go back to I Really Mean It? I Really Mean It started. We could go back to the history, bro.
For you to even say that.
Bro.
Jim was never charged. Nothing was ever proven. But ever since that tape dropped, 50 and the blogs never let it go. And now, with Jim out here puffing up his chest, poking at Nas and trying to sound untouchable on podcasts, 50 saw the perfect moment to strike. He dove back into his Instagram vault, dug up an old meme that he had once deleted, and reposted it. No words needed, just a reminder. The streets still remember. That's when it got real messy. 50 reposted that meme with the caption, "So that's why they ain't pull him in?" Say it ain't so, Jimmy.
Still playing at a high level.
Hey,
you check my record,
you jumping up and
I'm still
down.
playing at a high level. I'm rapping at a high level. You better check my stats, bro. I will run circles around Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rap.
It was petty, it was brutal, and fans ate it up. Let's rewind to 2019, when the Shade Room dropped a courtroom update straight from Tekashi's trial. A verified reporter said Tekashi named Jim Jones as a 9 Trey member, on record. That was the spark 50 needed. He jumped right in with a comment, and not long after, that infamous video of 50 looking shook surfaced. He literally typed, "I'm afraid for my life. I mean, Jimmy is gang gang." The internet went wild, laughing at the irony. But behind the scenes, Jimmy was twitching. Because that Individual One label, it wasn't going away.
Hey, this is the biggest podcast you ever been on. Do you know what podcast you been on better than this one?
Hold on. We on topic. Hold on.
This is what I do. Name a podcast you been on bigger than this one. When you get big, you get invited to Club Shay Shay.
This is what I do.
Nas get invited to Club Shay Shay.
But here's the twist. 50 didn't start beefing over Nas. That was just the latest excuse. He's been at war with Jim for years. This Nas moment just gave him the green light to drag Jim back through the dirt all over again. Let's take it back to 2007. 50 brought Jim Jones and Jewel Santana on stage at a G-Unit show, right when Dipset was already falling apart behind closed doors. Cameron took it as pure disrespect, a slick move during a time when the crew was already cracking.
You gotta start buying baggy your clothes, big fella. You too big, man.
You talk about you in the gym. Now you want to get me? You want me to see me in the gym?
Oh, we can do that.
Since you like to talk that ish, now come see me in the gym.
We talking about working out.
Come see me in the gym.
What we talking about? Working out or strength?
What
we talking about? Working out or strength?
Work however you want to do it.
We talking about
since you got money, If we talking about
put your money where your mouth is.
You got, so you talking about working
Run
out, I
them
burn
stacks.
you. You talking about working out, I burn you. You talking about working out of strength. Because you probably can lift a lot more than me.
Whatever.
You're bigger than me. You're probably stronger than me. But if you talk about working out, I'll burn you.
This ain't what you do. This ain't what you want. You are doing good when you talk about Nas and Jada. You don't want to see this.
It looked like 50 was adding fuel to Dipset's collapse on purpose. Fast forward to 2019, during that same Tekashi trial, Jim got hit with the individual one tag after prosecutors played a wiretapped call. No charges, no confirmation. But the internet didn't care. They flooded timelines with snitching rumors and never looked back. Jim saw all of 50's posts, every single one. And at first, he stayed quiet. Then he finally popped out with a throwback Bird Gang photo dripped in Dipset nostalgia. The caption? Why you keep lying? I'm going back to sleep. Free Mel Matrix till it's reversed. That was Jim Jones's next move, a cryptic IG post doubling as a message and a jab. Free Mel Matrix was a shout to his longtime homie doing over 11 years on racketeering charges. But that line, it wasn't just loyalty. It was Jim throwing shade, suggesting 50 was out here living in a fake world, pushing a fake narrative. But Jim wasn't finished. He followed up with another Jim flex, and this time he came for Shannon Sharpe's neck. His caption, straight heat.
Yo, honestly, I can't, like, if it was like Jim Jones, imagine putting a pen to paper to write about him. He was so nice. He was so nice about him. How did you do that? What's the first sentence? What the fuck do you write about him? I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. Like, I'm like, yo. The used to have so nervous was like B.I.G., Pop, right? Even Cannabis, like Eminem, he'd have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these Jim Jones, like, I mean, I respect you getting your money. You're like, exactly, right?
Somebody tell Shannon Sharpe don't start ducking this challenge now. Gon' talk like a podcaster or gon' walk what you talk, cause my sneakers tied. You already challenged me in front of the world? Might as well finish the job, champ. And then came the twist. Ochachinko jumped in. Said Shannon didn't want to settle it in public. Suggested they handle it in private. Jim clapped back with even more energy. I know his rep as an athlete on the line. As long as you the witness, we don't duck no challenger. Size don't matter where I'm from. Run it. At this point, while 50 was laughing from the sidelines, trolling with memes and throwbacks, Jim was training like he was prepping for war. His energy, full send. And to top it all off, he posted one last dagger for the haters. If you 40 and up arguing with me about Nas, you already lost.
Yeah, Jimmy boy, you should have never brought this up. Y'all are only 3 years apart, and Nas is just like murdering you. You asked us to look up the stats, and here they are. Like Jim Jones, like you got a couple songs. I mean, like literally it's a couple. But we're talking about Nas. Let me show y'all Nas's last projects. Nas been getting it in since 2018. Jimmy, when the last time you put out an album? Oh, would you look at that? You have been dropping music. You've really been dropping music. But nobody's heard it. Nobody's listening, bro.
You fell for the bait. That's what Jim said, loud and proud. He claimed every time Mel Matrix's name goes viral, his streams shoot straight up. He called it a marketing lesson for the older generation, saying y'all too stuck in the past to understand how the game works today. Tighten up, he said. And the caption, cold-blooded, I said what I said. P.S. I'll wrap circles around any artist from my era. Whoever dares step in the booth, bring a bag with you, cause this game ain't free. Jim's message was clear. He's outside, active, and ready to go bar for bar or gym for gym. We in the field, he said. Take that how you want, but we working every day. But here's the wildest part. Nas still hasn't said a single word. While Jim keeps baiting, poking, and calling himself the most influential, Nas remains on silent mode. Not a peep.
I'm hiding out in Texas. Please, whatever you do, don't tell them I'm in San Antonio. Don't tell them I'm staying at the Four Seasons. Don't tell them, please, don't tell them, man, because it's just so much pressure on me right now. I don't know what to do.
And if Nas does respond, it won't be a back and forth. It'll be a lyrical execution. Meanwhile, fans are starting to call Jim out, saying he's reaching, stretching, and talking too reckless. Still, Jim's talking. Nas is still silent. And 50, he's in the background, pulling strings like a puppet master in the shadows. And yo, if that unreleased wiretap really exists, Jim might have just talked himself into something way bigger than a diss track. 'Cause when 50 goes quiet, that's when the real bombs drop. Now the only question left is, will Nas step in and end this with bars? Or will 50 let the streets deal with Jim and leak the truth when it's way too late to run? Like, subscribe, and share this video if you want more of the real. Don't sleep on this one. See you on the next one.